Good morning or good evening. Somebody could tell me if the sound is coming through all right? Testing, testing. Is my sound well? Sounds good. Thank you, Daniel. We can begin by giving respect to the Triple Gem. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sanghang saranang gacchami. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So I can see Ryan, Chintana, Sean, Daniel, Gregory, Jayanta, and I think others are present who have not yet put a comment into the note. Dear friends, tonight I wanted to continue a conversation that I started a couple of weeks ago about the gradual training as it was explained in Digha Nikaya number 10, the Subha Sutta. The last time we talked about the spectrum of samadhi, the portion of the gradual training that was explained by Ananda as relating to meditation. And now I'm going to read the last part of that sutta, which is called the spectrum of wisdom. So if somebody is got the good fortune to be able to sit and dispel the agitation and other hindrances from the mind, able to remain in tranquil meditation for a good amount of time, then they won't necessarily be aiming for the goal unless they have obtained some kind of initial right view when they started, and that their practice is also informed and protected by excellent ethics, the good sila, and that they also will have in mind the aim of this practice. And that's what this part is that I'm talking about tonight. Subha asked, what worthy Ananda was the spectrum of noble wisdom that the Buddha praised? And the answer is, when their mind has become immersed in samadhi like this, purified, bright, flawless, rid of corruptions, pliable, workable, steady, and imperturbable, they project it and extend it toward knowledge and vision. So, as a result of jhana, the mind has obtained this very extremely pleasant and bright state wherein it's possible to perceive the original purity of the mind when it's undefiled by any kind of defilements. And that mind can be the base for liberating insight. They say that this quality, this purified, bright, flawless, rid of corruptions, pliable, workable, steady, imperturbable, that this is associated with the fourth jhana, as it's explained in the Eightfold Path. It is possible from the first jhana to recognize and see that this jhana state itself, the meditation itself, one of the finest states that a person can ever experience, is still something which is conditioned, something which is impermanent, and something which is liable to change, and which would be dangerous if clung to. And then based on that awareness, one can turn away from the meditation state, or on emerging from the meditation, turn the minds towards extinguishment, towards the deathless. But in this presentation, the meditator has gone through the four jhanas. It is the statement here that without jhana, the final liberation, full enlightenment, is impossible. So they understand that this body of mine is formed. It's made up of the four principal states produced by mother and father, built up from rice and porridge, liable to impermanence, to wearing away and erosion, to breaking up and destruction. And this consciousness of mine is attached to it and tied to it. This is a kind of a confusing statement if you don't have the context. So the description is a description of the coarse body. And it is the same phrases about the body is formed. It's made of the four principal states. That's the four great elements: the earth, water, air, and fire element, and produced by mother, father. This was also part of a materialist doctrine, where they thought that when the body comes to death, it goes to the four elements. The earth goes back to the earth, the air goes to the air, the water goes to the water, and so on. And that's the finish. There is no more. So that's not what the Buddha is driving to, but he is driving to that the obvious impermanence of the body is it's a reality that we can see with complete clarity. But then seeing the impermanence of the body could invite the tempting but incorrect idea that the mind, the consciousness, is permanent. So the body is impermanent, but the vijnana or the soul or the self or something is permanent and can go to live in a permanent eternal bliss in heaven or something else. So then the second statement, this consciousness of mine is attached to it and tied to it, is meant to dispel the delusion that the consciousness is permanent. That's the reason of that, for that statement. It's not trying to describe a mind-body dualism, but instead to just show how it can be experienced by the meditator. Ananda goes on, suppose there was a beryl gem that was naturally lustrous, 8-faceted, well-worked, transparent, clear, and unclouded, endowed with all good qualities, and it was strung with the thread of blue, yellow, red, white, or golden brown. And a person with clear eyes were to take it in their hand and examine it. This beryl gem is naturally lustrous, 8-faceted, well-worked, transparent, clear, and clouded, endowed with all good qualities, and it's strung with a thread of blue, yellow, red, white, or golden brown. In the same way, the mind has become immersed in samadhi, purified, bright, flawless, pliable, workable, and they project it towards this knowledge and vision. So the consciousness is as beautiful as the most beautiful gem one could imagine, and it is, as the gem is hanging on a thread, the vijnana is hanging on the body. So vijnana is also impermanent. Vijnana is also dukkha. Vijnana is also not self. It's merely the knowing faculty that arises endlessly, moment to moment, in dependence on the sensory contexts, which in turn are dependent on this body made out of flesh. This particular teaching is actually not very common in the suttas. Just if you're wanting to study the suttas, there's Majjhima 77, I think is the Sakuladaya Sutta, and Digha Nikaya 2, Samanyapala Sutta. So only in 3 places in the whole canon do we find the next couple of points. But this is the first knowledge, is this knowledge of having a vision of the mind and the consciousness as it really is. And the next one is when the mind is immersed in samadhi, they project it and extend it toward the creation of a mind-made body. From this body, they create another body, formed, mind-made, whole in its major and minor limbs, and not deficient in any faculty. Suppose a person was to draw a reed out from its sheath. They'd think, this is the reed, this is the sheath. The reed and the sheath are different things. The reed has been drawn out from the sheath. So this is not magic, but it could happen in meditation, that the image of the body, which is held in the mind, is experienced as being something separate from the body which is made out of meat. And if that happens, I think a lot of this particular section is describing things that almost sound like magic or altered states of consciousness. But I think it is useful for people who have the temperament and the capacity that these kind of imagery can arise for them in meditation. So don't be scared. And don't be distracted. This is something that's predicted in at least a few of the suttas as a kind of a way of seeing that is possible within meditation. So they give other metaphors. Suppose a person draws a sword from its scabbard. They think this is the sword, this is the scabbard. The sword and the scabbard are different things. The sword has been drawn out from the scabbard. Suppose a person was to draw a snake out from its slough. That's when the snake is shedding its skin. So if they help the snake to shed its old skin, they think this is the snake, this is the slough. The snake and the slough are different things. So this creation of the mind-brain body is a second something that pertains to wisdom, being able to see actually clearly see the distinction between the knowing faculty, which is an aspect of mind, and the sensory experiences or the activity of the senses and the brain, which is made out of meat, and to be able to perceive that. Now it goes on, and here it comes down to 6 direct knowledges, which are found very commonly throughout the early texts, and which were in the Buddha's own description of his own awakening. So when the mind is immersed in samadhi like that, they project and extend it towards psychic power. They wield many kinds of psychic power, multiplying themselves, becoming one, appearing and disappearing, going unobstructed through a wall, a rampart, or a mountain as if through space, diving in and out of the earth as if it were water, walking on water as if it were earth, flying cross-legged through the sky like a bird, touching and stroking with the hand the sun and moon, so mighty and powerful, controlling the body as far as the Brahma realm, the realm of divinity. These kinds of powers could be experienced by a human. And they could happen in connection with what comes after samadhi. These powers are not necessary to awaken. And even in another place in the Kevada Sutta that's Digha 11, the Buddha disapproves of exhibiting such powers if you have them. And if you do have such powers, it would be good to be both wise and responsible in the exercise and use of such powers, not to be frightened and not to be overly impressed with yourself, but to know that it's a thing that could happen, which is essentially not that important anymore. It's less important than being able to see the arising, the existence, and the cessation of a single point of contact with the senses, or being able to see the arising, the existence, and cessation of a single thought moment. But it's something that can happen. And there are more metaphors compared to a potter who can make any kind of pot they want, an ivory carver who can make produce any kind of item they like carved out of ivory. A goldsmith can make any kind of item they want made out of gold. So in the same way, when the mind, we have that much agency over the mind, we can do all these things with the mind. The next one is next power is clairaudience, or the divine ear. When the mind is immersed in samadhi, they could extend it toward clairaudience. with clairaudience that's purified and superhuman, they hear both kinds of sounds, human and heavenly, whether near or far, as clearly as if a person traveling along the road could hear the sound of drums, horns, kettle drums, and tom-toms. And they think that's the sound of drums, and so on. So this is the next power. Then the next power, which pertains to wisdom, is comprehending the mind of others. We see this power sometimes when the Buddha visited heaven and spoke to the Brahma divinities who got in a bit of a contest, and they said, I can disappear from you, but you can't disappear from me, because the Brahma God thought that his mind was superior to the Buddha's mind, but instead the Buddha was able to disappear because his mind was bigger. He was able to comprehend the mind of the Brahma divinity. Or even elsewhere, if you wanted to know whether somebody has gained a stream entry or not, or whether somebody has gained the once returner or the non-returner or the full enlightened arahant, only a person who is realized to a higher level is able to see and comprehend somebody who's at a lower level. So now what's described as extending the mind towards comprehending the minds of others. They understand the mind with greed as the mind with greed, the mind without greed as the mind without greed, the mind with hate and the mind without hate, the mind with delusion, the mind without delusion, the constricted mind, the scattered mind, the expansive mind, the unexpansive mind. Does anybody recognize where these different states of mind appear in a famous sutta that we've all studied? In the Satipatthana Sutta, in the Citta Nupassana, contemplation of the mind with respect to the mind, or the mind in the mind. It's describing these pairs of states of mind and urging one to be capable within oneself to be able to discern and notice clearly and directly these kinds of states of mind. Then they understand a mind that is supreme as a mind that's supreme, a mind that is not supreme as a mind that is not supreme. So then if somebody were a stream winner, they could understand this mind is not supreme because it's only a stream winner. There's more work to do. Or if they're just a faith follower but don't have all of the complete realization of stream entry, they can understand that. That's that part. Understanding the mind in Samahitan, that's the collected mind, and the uncollected mind, the freed mind, and the unfreed mind. And then the description here actually seems to be relating to having insight into one's own mind rather than into the mind of others. The metaphor is, suppose there was a woman or a man who was young, youthful, and fond of adornments. They'd check their own reflection in a clean, bright mirror or a clear bowl of water. If they had a spot, they'd know, I have a spot. And if they had no spots, they'd know, I have no spots. And so most of these states of mind are in pairs. One of them is beneficial and one is not beneficial. And so when practicing mindfulness, you simply, it's just the aspect of recognizing what's beneficial and what's not beneficial in the state of mind. that by itself could be enough to dispel an unbeneficial mind and to cause the beneficial state to become stabilized and more extended. The part where you would be actively trying to let go of the spots, the negative states of mind, would be an aspect of right effort, which is a different part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, it's going to go on. Comes to the recollection of past lives. Now here, in many other suttas, when the Buddha is describing his own awakening, if he's giving the short version, he describes it just in terms of these three knowledges, which is going to be the recollection of past lives, the divine eye seeing the people being born according to their karma, and the knowledge of the destruction of the defilements or the asatas. So, immersed in samadhi, one may project the mind, extend it toward the recollection of past lives. They recollect many kinds of past lives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 1,000, 100,000 rebirths. Many eons of the world contracting, many eons of the world expanding, many eons of the world contracting and expanding. They remember, there I was named this, my clan was that, I looked like this, that was my food. This is how I felt pleasure and pain, and that was how my life ended. When I passed away from that place, I was reborn somewhere else. There too, I was named this, my clan was this, and so on. So, empowered by the fourth jhana, the memory, sati is perfection of memory, breaks through the dividing line between the birth that we had at the beginning of this life, revealing the vast expanse of time, completely dispelling the illusion that there's any place for eternal rest or sanctuary in the cycle of transmigration. And this knowledge, as is described here, is not just some kind of vague feeling, but it's a clear, precise, brilliant insight. Suppose a person was to leave their home village, go to another village. From that village, they go to yet another village. From that village, they return to their home village. They would think, I went from this village to another. And in this case, the word for the past life, pupa nivasa, it literally means former home. So we've got this imagery of houses. And finally, we come to the main point of this sutta. And it could be that, like all of these other powers are put in for the sake of drama, for the sake of building up the sense. I'm sorry, one more. I've got one more to give. This is the divine eye. That's seeing the all the sentient beings being born and passing away, inferior, superior, beautiful, ugly, in a good place or a bad place, depending on their karma, on the good or bad things they did by way of body, speech, and mind. So this is a direct knowledge which is available to somebody who is close to enlightenment, who's directing the mind towards wisdom. It's compared to being on a stilt longhouse, Bhante Sujato's translation, which is elevated in a central square with clear eyes, and you can see the people coming and going. Now comes the ending of the defilements, and this is the punchline or the takeaway from this whole long list of different things which are part of the practice of wisdom. And everything else is merely a preliminary to this. All of the manifold, wonderful, amazing, magical powers of the mind are just leading up to this power, the ending of the defilements, which is the real deal, which is the actual description of the awakening. I happened to give a retreat a couple of years ago about the destruction of the asavas. If you visit my personal YouTube channel, you can find the talks. I don't know how good they are because it was so long ago, but the people liked it at the time, and it was quite really so important to have a clue what the destruction of the asavas is going to be like, because if you don't have a clue what you're aiming for, how can you get there? So even though you may feel so far away from even approaching anything like this, actually you can have some taste, some temporary taste of realizing some levels of freedom from these pollutions, these defilements, these corruptions. It's a hard word to translate. Asava has another meaning of something that flows in and something that flows out, which has an aspect of like germs or disease can flow in when we inhale them, and some kind of corruption or infection in the body. If you have an open wound and the pus is coming out, that's like flowing out. So that's sort of like the strong imagery of the asava. But you can think of it in a more benign way, as just inflowing and outflowing. So when the mind is immersed in samadhi, purified, bright, flawless, rid of corruption, pliable, workable, steady, imperturbable, they project and extend it toward knowledge of the ending of defilements. They truly understand this is dukkha, this is the origin of dukkha, this is the cessation of dukkha, this is the practice that leads to the cessation of dukkha. So way back at stream entry, you had an understanding of dukkha. You acquired a particular kind of right view, even long before stream entry, when you became a faith follower. You had a preliminary understanding of right view that was what you needed to carry you along through this practice. But this understanding of dukkha is to directly experience the actual final complete end of dukkha, which is not going to come back again because you are fully enlightened. And so that's the Buddha's realization. Then they truly understand these are the defilements. This is the origin of the defilements, the asavas. This is the cessation of the asavas. And this is the practice that leads to the cessation of the asavas. So then the asavas are made almost like a synonym for dukkha. And the formula of the dukkha is applied to these corruptions. And so, what are they? It's the defilement of sensuality, which is called kama asava. Kama asava. That includes pleasure related to the five senses, and it also includes, in my opinion, all of the materialistic pleasures that are part of living in the world that we live in, which is the kama loka, the world of sense desire. So we live in a world where it's a lot of work to make a living and to find something to eat. It's a lot of work to find a shelter where we'll be protected from the weather. It's a lot of work to discover some medicine when we're ill, or to find something that makes us feel better when we're in pain. And so then the materialistic person is the person who's built up their estate. They've got their house, they've got their family, they've got their employees, they've got their bank account, or they've got their granary, which is filled with grain. They've got their animals, and they've got everything all in order, so they feel like, at least for a little while, they're not going to have to suffer with the five senses through the pain of hunger, disease, old age, and being buffeted by the weather, and so on. So that's kama asava. That's the first one. So sense pleasure, but think of it as the craving that has to do with our world, our material world. And then the next one is called bhavasava, which is the corruption of bhava, or existence, and that is referring to the desire for eternal existence, the desire to discover some heavenly realm where there's no more change, no more becoming, just eternal bliss. It's possible that bhavasava is also something that could arise. You may not actually be thinking about eternal life, but you'd like to live for another minute. And if you are can't breathe because something's happened to you, and you're desperately trying to catch your breath, and there's powerful, let me live just one more minute. Or if you have a terminal disease and you tried several different kinds of medicine for your disease, and it's not working, and your family is going on the internet and they find, well, here's another kind of experimental medicine which is not covered by your insurance, but you can afford to pay for it. And who knows what side effects it has, but it could make your life go for another few more months. And then some people, the craving to live is so strong. So I think bhavasava can include both at that low level, and also somebody who's become kind of has a lot of philosophical detachment, and who's really purified a lot, can still be subjected to the longing for heaven, a longing for the eternal life. That's the bhavasava. And then the last one is the avidyasava. That's the corruption of ignorance, the corruption of seeing things not as they are, but in a different way, seeing them wrongly, seeing them mistakenly. In some other lists, there's a fourth one that's sometimes listed, and that's called adittasava, and that is the corruption of wrong views. So it's kind of secondary, isn't it, to the other ones? Because if someone is dominated by sense desire, they'll build up a philosophy to justify their sense desire. If they're dominated by desire for eternal life, they'll build up some philosophy or some religious system that justifies that. We see them, if you're interested in reading the suttas and learning more about the asavas, you might also search around and look for suttas about the floods, and probably the Oga, or about the yokes, called yoga, and it describes many metaphors and to help understand what these corruptions are and how it's possible to purify the mind through wisdom and to come to the end. So then, after all that, they are free from the asavas, and they know that they are freed. And then they can declare their full awakening. They can say, rebirth is ended, the spiritual journey has been completed, what had to be done has been done. There's nothing further for this place. In this case, it would be like in a mountain glen, if there's a lake that's transparent, clear, unclouded, a person with clear eyes standing on the bank would see the clams and mussels, the pebbles and gravel, the schools of fish swimming about or staying still. They think this lake is transparent, clear, and unclouded. Here are the clams, mussels, pebbles, and gravel, schools of fish swimming or staying still. So previously with the jhanas, we had many metaphors about being immersed in water, being immersed in clear in water. And so with this one, the view has come out, and the view is standing up and above the water, looking in with that perfect clarity. So this sutta is important because it's repeated in all or in part in so many different places in the teachings. And yet, some students might be saying, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm so far, I can't even, what's the use of even thinking about it? I'm so far. How can I develop this wisdom? I need to know how to make the transition from the state practice of samadhi to developing wisdom. And in that case, I'm going to refer you to a completely different teaching, which is given in several different places, sometimes called the spiral path, or sometimes called transcendental dependent origination. It's given most famously in the Upanishad Sutta, which is 12.23 in the Samyutta Nikaya. We talked a little bit about it, I think, last week in Gujar 10.2. So here is a description of how to get that wisdom. Okay, immersion is the vital condition for truly knowing and seeing things as they really are, yatha bhuta, like it is, or like it has become. Jnana dasana, see, so you got the courage. You can see things arising according to conditions. You can see arising and disappearing according to conditions. While the conditions are there, something remains. When the conditions stop, it stops. So that knowing and seeing. That's the first step from samadhi. And then truly knowing, seeing is the vital condition for disillusionment, disenchantment, or in Pali, nibbida, where you have lost interest in the merry-go-round of samsara. You've lost interest in the roller coaster of the ups and downs of pleasure and pain. You've lost interest in sensual desire. You've actually lost interest in this craving for eternal life, like wanting to be born in heaven, or wanting to be reborn as a rich man, or wanting to be reborn as a bodhisattva, or wanting to be reborn as anything at all. That the whole round of rebirth and everything it entails, it no longer has the appeal for you. That disillusionment. And then with that disillusionment, it's a vital condition for dispassion, called viraga. So the emotional reactivity will fade away by itself, and you will find yourself more and more dwelling in equanimity and less dwelling in excitement. So that's how you can tell intuitively, naturally, without all the other stories and metaphors and similes that I gave you about all those magic powers. You can tell whether you're on the way to wisdom if you can see that these processes are at work in you. And then dispassion is the vital condition for freedom. And this freedom, this vimutti, in the other sutta we saw freedom from the asavas, the final permanent destruction of the asavas. That's freedom. That's real freedom. But there are a lot of other kinds of freedom that are spoken of and described in the suttas. I might, if I get another chance, I might talk about some of the teachings about the meditative states that are referred to as the liberation of the heart. So you can experience liberation of the heart in meditation, and you can recognize that as freedom, or you can know that there was something that you were craving before and you don't crave it anymore, and you can recognize that freedom to the extent that the viraga has started to fade away. You can recognize little by little becoming more and more free as you go along. And if you've got that, then you know that you're on the right track, on the right path, setting up the conditions for wisdom. And then freedom is the vital condition for the knowledge of ending, for the knowledge of the end of all conditions. That's another epithet for enlightenment. Just as naturally as when the heavens rain heavily on the mountaintops, the water flows downhill, fills the hollows, crevices, and creeks. As they become full, they fill the pools fill the lakes fill the streams fill the rivers. And as the rivers become full, they fill up the ocean. So wisdom is just as natural as that. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this talk to an end and see about questions. Ryan writes, Diraya, great choice of suttas. After 4 jhanas, could we choose to remain in the plane of existence, where we could interact with people, either dead or alive, and interact with them in order to help them. the people who are deceased would have gone on to another existence if they didn't realize Nibbana. It's possible that the Theravada has an idea that at the end of one life, that there's an instantaneous process of going to the next life. And this is one of the debates that they had in the period of sectarian Buddhism. But my understanding, I can't really give a good citation for this, is that that's a commentarial idea. And there's some evidence in the suttas that they had the idea that there was an intermediate stage. And so then somebody who is in that intermediate stage after their death, when the Gandhabba is looking around seeking for like what life they're going to enter into, definitely you can help them. And one way that the Buddhist tradition of helping them is to chant there's a memorial chanting, which is reciting all of the elements of the Dhamma really fast. And that chanting is so that if that being who's between one life and the next life can hear, they can possibly take a good direction if they remember what they know about the Dhamma. But then for those beings who have gone on to another life, let's say like your mother, maybe has been reborn as either some kind of a deva, living in a deva realm. And my mother was not a Buddhist. She was Catholic, and I'm pretty sure she wanted to be with God in heaven. And at the time of her death, she was so confident, and so her mind was so much at ease. I'm really quite sure that she's with God in heaven. And so, right, I could, if I had the power, I could go to heaven and find my mother, and I could explain to her the disadvantages of heaven. That heaven is also impermanent, and she should listen to the Buddha. So yeah, I think it's possible. Okay. Or in the woeful plains, into wholesome ones like being with people. We definitely give loving kindness to animals with the idea that if and even chanting for the animals. So maybe if the animal heard Namo Tassa Bhagavato sometime in the past, they heard those words, and they could remember, like when they heard it, they could remember, and it could lead them up. Yes, it's. I think it would be possible to communicate with the beings in the woeful plains. The hungry ghost is very classically considered to be a woeful plain. The woeful plains, the hell realms, are part of the Kama Loka. So the woeful plains and the lower levels of heaven are all part of the same section in the Buddhist cosmology. And so, yeah, they can sometimes be able to hear us. The hungry ghosts are depicted with a big belly, like somebody who's starving to death, and their throat is pencil thin, because if you give them something, they're not able to swallow it, so they can't benefit from what you give them. And that's a sort of a symbol, like it's very difficult to make merit when you're in a woeful plane. But if you extend the thought of loving kindness for the beings in the woeful planes, and if you think that you might have anybody you know down there, and extend loving kindness to them specifically, it's possible that they would know whatever realm they're in, whether they're animal, ghost, or heaven. If you're offering good wishes for those people you know who've already passed away, they could know about it. And they could think, oh, my relative still remembers me and is still wishing for my loving kindness, wishing for my welfare and happiness. And they could rejoice in that. And that rejoicing is mudita. And mudita is a kind of a merit. It's one of the few kinds of merits that beings in the woeful planes are able to do. This is according to Buddhist cosmology. If you find that, and also, by the way, there's a lot of living people in the human form who are in a woeful plane. They're living in tents on the street. They're filling our prisons. They're on the battlefield of war. They're in the hospitals. They're in the insane asylums. And just teaching, even if they would not be like in a place to understand the fullness of the teaching of the Buddha, if they could learn that morality comes from love and matures in happiness, and straightening out one's ethics and radiating kindness for the world is the definite way to get out of hell and to get into heaven. That would be a big step up for a lot of people. And once they've, somebody who's gotten somewhat stabilized in that way, then may be capable to hear and understand the teachings of the Buddha. But I don't disparage heaven in that sense, that for a lot of people, if they could get out of hell and get into heaven, that would be a good job done. So it's very good to teach about ethics and kindness, just for the sake of helping people in that way. Thank you much for the talk. I wanted to make sure my understanding is correct. It seems that there is tranquility meditation, the jhanas, and there is mindfulness meditation. The jhanas are desirable states of consciousness, can produce merit, but cannot bring you full nibbana, whereas insight meditation is necessary to obtain full nibbana. Is that correct? Not quite correct. So in gaining liberation, it is said that it requires both tranquility, both samatha and vipassana. Both insight and tranquility are required to enter, to wake up. And so then it said that some people in the moments of their awakening process, the shamatha comes first and the vipassana comes second. For some people, the vipassana comes first and the shamatha comes second. And for some people, they're going together, pulling together like a pair of oxen pulling a cart. but you have to have both. So then Vipassana then became the brand name of a certain school of secular meditation, which they did recognize that a lot of the other schools of religious seekers before the Buddha had wrong samadhi. They had samadhi meditation, but they didn't have right view. They didn't have the Vipassana. And so the Buddha added, you had to have Vipassana. So Vipassana is like the unique thing that the Buddha taught that's coming on top of what the other religions already knew about practicing jhana meditation. But it's said in hundreds of different places that jhana meditation is a prerequisite for gaining wisdom. And the wisdom is a prerequisite for gaining the liberation, for gaining enlightenment. What's called Vipassana meditation, as far as I can see, is got quite a lot of focus on the Satipatthana, Samasati, and that's very good, Samasati. Sati. The meditation has 3 parts, and the talk we gave a couple of weeks ago was developing mindfulness and clear comprehension, and making the right effort to purify the mind of negative states are also part of the spectrum of meditation. So it's all 3. But so the jhanas are not just for merit. The jhana is essential. Okay. So I may have gone too fast because it's 8:30 and the questions came to an end. So I can tell the story about samatha and vipassana that was told by Ajahn Brahmavamsa. He said that there were 2 people named Sam Atta and Vai Pasana. Sam and Vai, and they went for a hike. They went to climb a mountain. And every time they got to a certain view spot where they could take a break from their hiking, Vai was saying, "Oh, look how much I can see." And Sam was saying, "This is so relaxing." But they both went up together and they had both. And so Sam was, they're both climbing the mountain towards awakening, and the person who was inclined towards samatha, has that strong experience of the calmness, the tranquilization, and the fading away of the disturbances that resulted from craving and aversion. And that vipassana is delighting in the clear seeing. Okay, so I think this may be enough for tonight. So we can close by saying sadhu, 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 sadhu.